Today's episode is all about what it takes to be a best-in-class real estate broker in Toronto. We'll discuss the key traits and characteristics that set top agents apart and how they set themselves up for success in this competitive industry. We'll cover everything from expert market knowledge to exceptional communication skills and the ability to adapt to changing situations. So whether you're a buyer, seller, or aspiring agent yourself, get ready to take some notes and learn from the best. Let's dive in. It's week 3 of April 2023. We are Marin Associates, Toronto's most innovative and active brokerage in central and downtown Toronto. We aren't here to regurgitate boring facts. You can find those anywhere. We're here to share what we're seeing in the Toronto real estate market in real time on a weekly basis so you can be in the know and make informed decisions. If you're interested in getting an up-to-the-moment opinion on what's happening in Toronto real estate right now and learning about what's going down, boots on the ground, before it becomes a stat, then you're in the right place. My name's Ian Busher. I'm a broker with the FM team. This lady needs no introduction. This is the very pretty Corey Marin, in-house hype girl and resident expert listing broker. And, of course, let's not forget, Mr. Ralph Fox, our analytical, investor-driven, macro picture watcher. We do this every week, so hit the subscribe button and join us for the latest updates every 7 days or so. Corey, question for you. Are you ready?
I'm ready. I love this topic. I'm so pumped we're going to do this topic today.
Okay, excellent.
Are you
Tell
pumped,
us,
Corey?
I am.
Are we ready?
Yes.
Are we ready?
I think so.
Okay, let's stay pumped. Stay pumped.
Okay.
Corey, tell us about your first year in the business. What did you think it would be like? What was it like? And how did you evolve?
Good question. Oh, the first year in the business, I can say, was horrible. Like, really, it was seriously horrible. I could talk about this for like 2 hours, so I'll try to keep this as a little bit of a nugget. So I got my real estate license for so many reasons, but the big reason I had come from like a big corporate account management job. I was paid very well. I had lots of perks. I got to travel, stayed in nice hotels, nice salary, nice expense account. You know, I had a BlackBerry and my laptop and...
Ooh, BlackBerry.
I know. I just dated myself with that one. It was a great BlackBerry. And I was just sort of like, okay, so now what? Like, I don't want to become a VP of sales. I don't want to run a team. I don't want to become a director of sales. I need more than this, and I need to be more creative in what I do. And so it was very apparent to me this is the right direction to take, to go out on my own and do something for myself. And this was a natural extension of something I was already doing because I was already investing in the market and doing really well. However, my experience as a broker came from selling properties and working with a really great agent that represented me and being like, I could do that. I'm like, I could totally do that. And I quit my job cold turkey. I moved to a big luxury brokerage and started off as a rookie and had no sense of what working on 100% commission would be like. I had no sense of the time period between completing a transaction and then getting paid on the transaction. So all of a sudden I was like, oh, I did a deal. And then all of a sudden you're like, but I'm not going to get paid on that for another 75 days. My split with the brokerage was humongous because I was new. So I think they got 50% of everything. Or no, 60.
Just for the sake of our listeners, too, your split is the part of the commission that goes to the house, right?
That's
just
right.
For clarity's
yes,
sake.
No, I'm so glad you said that. And I was working with a lot of agents that were giving me referrals. So I was also giving them a 25% referral fee. So the fortunate thing for me is I knew a lot of people. And I had a lot of people that were supportive of me moving into this business. So I was fortunate enough to know enough people that supported me. And I did a lot of rentals. And just think about this. Like, I was started in this business over 10 years ago. So a rental for like a 1-bedroom was like $14.50 a month. As a rental agent, you get paid half of 1 month's rent. All right, so that's $700 and change that I would get paid gross. Then I would have to pay the house or the brokerage, that split, so 50 to 60%. And sometimes I would have to pay the referring agent as well, another 25%. So listeners out there, those of you who want to become agents, my first paycheck in this business, are you ready? $0.00.
It was negative, wasn't it? After you throw in your expenses and your taxes and everything, it was actually less than zero.
Yeah. I think I owed money to the brokerage at the end. So it was a hideous start. And I'm not talking necessarily because I didn't have activity. Like, I was lucky. I had movement and activity, and the senior agents were giving me leads. And as I said, I had a lot of people supporting me, and I had business, but I was like not financially feeling good about it. And I was also desperately insecure about feeling green in the business. I hated the feeling of being new. I was like terrified to call an agent. I was scared to negotiate. I was scared to make a mistake. I was scared if I was going to miss, every misstep. I was terrified Rico was going to call me and I was going to get sued. What if I made an error on my paperwork? And I mean, Ralph will remember when I was new, but I literally shook in my bed all night long. My stress response was so high that I would be shaking. And I also had purchased, before I quit my lucrative job, 2 pre-construction condos that were closing in the next upcoming years with deposits that were owed. And I'm like, how am I going to pay for these? Like, I'm making like $0 or like $75. So, I really leaned into my credit line, and it was a tough go on so many levels. And then I think the last piece to this was I didn't expect to feel so lonely. That was the other big shocker of the whole thing, is I had come from a big corporate office. And then on the side, I had been teaching group fitness classes for years. So my days were packed full of people. Like, from morning to night, I was like either in an office or a fitness studio with people all the time. I felt like I was in a party all day long and all weekend long. And then to become a solo agent, you think it's a people business? Not really. You spend a lot of time alone, especially in those days, like when you were driving around in your car, in the winter, meeting people to do a rental showing at a condo, waiting in a condo lobby for somebody to show up, sitting in your little cubicle at the brokerage by yourself, waiting in a coffee shop for a client to show up by yourself. And I was like extremely surprised by that, like how lonely I felt and isolated. And I think a lot of new people that get into this business that aren't on a team realize very quickly that this is not a people business. I mean, yes, you have to be good at working with people, but you spend the majority of your time by yourself. So my first year was
isolated.
Yeah, my first year was really bad.
Yep.
It was really bad. And I did really well. Like, I would say, like, I did well on paper, and everyone would be like, that was a star year, and I ended up winning rookie of the year at my brokerage. And on paper, it all looked amazing, and people would give anything to have the year I did in my first year, in terms of the amount of transactions I did and network I did and all the stuff that came with it. But like, physically and emotionally, I felt horrible the whole time, and I probably did for the first 2 years, I would say.
Yeah, I think no one wants to be the new person anywhere, right?
No, that's why people never change.
I wanted to spin off of what you said about, not wanting to be caught as the new person. Oh. And my biggest fear was anybody asking, how long have you been doing this? And he'd just be like, 20, what, 20 years? No, months? No, hours. No, 20. I've been doing this for 20 hours. Get back to me in a couple of months. I can talk months, but yeah, I'm that new.
Yeah.
Ralph, what about you? Your first year. What do you remember about that?
Oh my gosh, it was so long ago. It's really hard to even think back. It's interesting. Take your
dinosaur to the office. Ride your dinosaur to the office and back.
Something like that. What was interesting is I remember the exams were not nearly as rigorous as they are today, and it was an open book exam, and you could literally turn this around within a matter of a month or two. So the barrier to entry was as low as it is today. It was a lot lower back then. So I remember that being an interesting experience, just going through it and thinking, wow, it's really this easy to get your license? Shouldn't there be some guardrails on people running around with clients spending their life savings? And so I thought that was very interesting, and I wasn't expecting how easy it was to get in and how little prepared they actually left you to sort of fend on your own and figure out everything on your own. So it was really interesting when all of a sudden you were licensed to trade and then being like, okay, well, how do I figure this out? And so I think I was a bit fortunate because I had a very strong entrepreneurial, sales, real estate background. I'd been investing in real estate since a very young age. And it was something that I've been drawn to. So it was a more natural transition for me. And having worked for myself all my life, I didn't have the same shock that Corey had coming from a corporate world. And so I was very much prepared for the ebbs and flows of the business, which again is something that you're not prepared for while you're looking at making this transition. And I just found it to be amazing when you would start to look to get training or go to outside resources to learn how to be better at what you do. And it was always all about lead generation and how to get more clients. And I'm like, oh my God, well, shouldn't somebody be talking about the market and the green belt and the long-term ramifications of, what's going to be happening in the city? And you couldn't find that anywhere back then. And so trying to really make myself even more educated and more able to articulate for my clients and advocate for my clients in their best interest, I really had to go off on my own and figure it out on my own. So I thought that was very interesting in my transition. And it was interesting. It was very interesting times back then because the market, the average sale of a condo was $360,000. A house, you could buy a house probably for $1 million back then.
Oh,
so much
700,000.
Yeah, 750 probably. So much different market, much different climate. And in the time that I've been in this business, just the transition and technology and how quickly things move has just been amazing, watching from having to sit in your car and wait for 20 agents to present and then go in and face-to-face talk to a seller and an agent and present an offer. Like, that was very interesting experience as well. And that is something most new agents don't ever get to deal with because they just click send and they text and off it goes. Mm-hmm. So very different world and time in real estate. And so I look back on it fondly. But at the same point in time, I think there's been a lot of progress, and I'm very happy to be sitting where I am today. It's not easy being an agent, a new agent. You're not prepared, and you really have to sort of fend for yourself. And it's kind of the same example of going to LA and becoming a television star. Or movie star, or Netflix star, or YouTube star. It's 1 in a million. And it takes a lot of work and a little bit of luck. And, you might end up in that 1%, and it doesn't happen overnight.
Mm-hmm. So true.
Yeah, absolutely. It's, I think, so I'm a licensed carpenter. And in order to become that, I had to find a journeyman carpenter who was willing to take you on as an employee and get insurance, et cetera. I feel like the reason for me telling you that is I feel like there should be an internship period to becoming an agent. Mm-hmm. I think, I'm going to touch on some things you both talked about. You are that's such a,
sorry, Ian, to interrupt you.
Yeah.
But I just really want to underline, I've never heard anybody ever say that. And I've really never thought about that myself, but just the way a lawyer articles, just the way a doctor does residency, I think something like that would be really, really, really needed in an industry where you're supposedly advising clients on massive transactions and meaningful and significant. That's such a great idea. I've never heard that before.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think there should be, somebody else who has a minimum of 5 years experience that takes you on under their wing and will sign off to some, to Oreo, Korea, whatever it happens to be, to say, yes, they did 24 months of studying with me and I got them to clean out the trash cans and do the shredding and filing, et cetera, et cetera. But I showed them the ropes and now they know what they're doing. So when they're dealing with a client who's got a $2 million budget and maybe one of the largest purchases or sales they're ever going to make in their life, you've got somebody who didn't just spend a month in school and do an open book exam and get a police letter and boom, you're done and already you're moving stuff around. I really feel strongly about that. I don't, the schooling system is good, but there's always room for improvement in everything. And I feel like that would really, really help this industry to have an internship or an apprenticeship, an articling period for agents, 100%.
I love that idea. What was your first year like, Ian?
My notes for this question are, had my ass handed to me multiple times, embarrassed myself, took my lumps like a man, and I got schooled. That's what the first year is like. It's kind of awful in a lot of ways, kind of like being new at a lot of things. I think the overall statement is you don't know what you don't know. And you are a sponge and you want to get as much as you can. But to touch on some of your earlier points, it's very isolating. You suddenly find yourself having left some other career at home by yourself, or maybe going to the office of the brokerage that you've signed on with and spending time there by yourself and looking for other agents to go get a coffee with because you don't have any clients yet. But to your earlier point, I think if you're a well-connected person who's a people person and you've been networking in your other career or in school, et cetera, I think one of the first things anybody should do is really just get started on their database right away. And, be informing people of what it is that they've chosen to do. So, what you can control, get the message out there. And luckily from my contracting and carpentry background, I had a laundry list of great clients, people that I knew from different interests like music and art and the gym and sports teams and things like that. Like, take your new cards, hand them out, get the message out there, right? Yes. Social media. All of these things are a great way to let everybody know what you're doing. So I think my contracting background, I remember one particular quote a couple of months after I got started. Somebody called me and said, "We'd like you to sell this house." And I said, "That's great. Thank you. Why are you choosing me?" And they said, "You built it. Nobody else knows this house quite as well as you do. Never spent the night here, but you pretty much, you know everything about my house better than anybody else." So that was a very kind gesture by a contracting client that got me started.
I love that. Yeah, this is not a business that looks like HGTV or $1 Million Listing or Selling Sunset, where everyone thinks like we just like walk around in these like glamorous outfits and luxury vehicles and look at beautiful properties. Toronto real estate, first of all, is not that interesting, like in terms of like the property inventory that we have. Mm-hmm. And, how many people are walking around with a $10 million budget? So I learned very quickly, first of all, you cannot wear stilettos and a pencil skirt to show a house and scurry around somebody's basement and, walk through muddy backyards and look at garden sheds and hunt for lock boxes with 4-inch heels on. I feel like it's like the dead giveaway with a new agent when they're walking around like that. I'm like, you will not last wearing that outfit. I'm telling you, in 2 months'
It's like
time,
a clown costume.
Yeah.
You want us to know what you're doing, so you're dressing. Yeah.
Like, it's not going to happen. Like, I
swear. That is the standard wardrobe.
I always think it's good to really dress a lot like your clients and reflect that energy back as well. Like, you don't want to be the one who's like super pimped out. You want to like be in a place where your clients feel comfortable with you. And I always really reflect their style. Like, if they're going to be casual, I will dress casual. If they're going to be dressed up, I'll dress up a bit more. So you're always mirroring that back. And I think it just makes everyone feel more at ease. It's very awkward to show up as if you're like going out to
just make it comfortable.
Yeah.
I also think though it's really important to be yourself, and it's one of the things that I've seen a lot of agents when they come into the business is all of a sudden they think they have to walk, dress, and act like Ryan Serhant from $1 Million Listing, and they're not being true to themselves and their personality, and people can sense that, and it's a real turnoff whether you're in the dating world or the real estate world. You really need to be aligned by yourself. And I see so many times when we have junior agents and I'm just like, just relax and be yourself. It's okay to say you don't know the answer to a question. It's okay if you spill coffee on your shirt, which I do on a weekly basis, and it hasn't hampered my career. It's just really important that you just are relaxed. It's not even the idea of being authentic. It's just, you need to get to a point where you're comfortable enough with your role and with yourself that you can just be yourself. And when you're relaxed, that in turn will get mirrored with the people that you're talking with.
So true.
And when I say that, I just don't mean clients, I mean other agents as well. And that's another thing that I sort of thought early in my career is you had to be a little bit more like Ari from Entourage, and you had to be, that power dealer, wheeling and dealing and talking up and down, walking up and down the street and talking on your phone and being somewhat adversarial and, a little bit arrogant. And what I came to realize very quickly is the most successful agents in this business are facilitators. They're not adversarial. And one of the greatest things that you can learn to say as an agent to another agent is, I'm a deal maker. I'm here to facilitate. I'm here to create a win-win. If our clients win, we all win. How do we make this work? And if we can't, that's okay too, because maybe we'll be able to circle back on this in a week from now, or maybe we'll work together or collaborate together on something else. And you see a tremendous difference from the older or more experienced agent who come to the approach of collaborative, whereas you see a lot of the newer agents thinking that they have to be aggressive, and really that's ego-based and it's insecurity, versus being in a position where you are comfortable with yourself and able to advocate on your client's best behalf.
Yeah, the spirit of cooperation, 100%. So guys, with all of this awful stuff we've said about your first year, why do you think so many people are interested? Ralph, I'll start with you. Why do you think so many people think, hey, I'm going to go get my real estate license?
I'll tell you why, because we get calls we get contacted about 2-3 times a month. Although it's quieted down over the last few months. I don't see people over the moon trying to get into the business right now. But we would get these calls, or people would reach out and I'd connect with them. And I'm like, so why are you thinking about getting your real estate license? And it's like, well, I was watching HGTV with my mom and this looks really fun. Or, I was on YouTube and, I saw someone talking about how to make unlimited income and work your own hours by getting into real estate. Or, my agent made so much money off the last transaction and I feel that I could do this on my own, even though I have no life or business experience. And so there's a lot of things I find that drive people to want to get into the business. And and I always ask, why do you want to do this? And the thing that I always find funny from my perspective is that their motivations are so far from the reality of what this actually is.
Misconceptions.
And so my understanding is that, it's almost like a turnstile where, yes, there's 68,000, or now I hear it's like 65 or 64,000 agents in the GTA. But I've heard the stat where close to 50% leave and 50% come in every year. It's that transitory. So, it's not really a surprise that you have that type of transition in and out, given the low barrier to entry. And that's another thing. I mean, probably a little more difficult than 3 open book tests from back in my day. But at the same point in time, relative to any other profession, it seems like an easy way to get into a business with low startup costs. And so I see the natural attraction to that. But it's the Pareto principle on crack in Toronto real estate, whereby, 1 or 2% are doing all of the business, maybe 3% are doing all of the business and are doing it well. And so how do you get into that? And it's very, very different from what you would originally think it would be. Totally. Similar to even our stories, where we all explained how it was much different once we got into it than we thought we did. But given how fast things have moved and are moving, I think that, that transition is happening even faster.
Corey, you would agree with these statements?
Yeah, I can see, and then probably from my lens as well, like why it looks attractive to do. I can understand, because like everyone who's in the business, for example, their Instagram is a highlight reel into the world of real estate on the glamour side of what it is. Like, dressed up properties and open houses and interesting meetings and networking parties and all of these things. And so I can see how it's perceived this way. And I mean, I thought it was going to be a lot like that too. And I thought, yes,
I think we all did.
I think that, and there is opportunity to make good money in this business. Don't get me wrong, there is. That just comes down way further down the road. And so I think people think it is going to be one thing. And I actually wrote an Instagram post on my personal Instagram somewhat recently about my first year in the business and talked about that check that was like -0 and then I owed money.
I think you had a picture of the check.
I do.
Yeah.
I have a picture of the check. And I found it like on my bankings, like I went back and looked for it just to prove that that was a real thing that happened. And I got so many messages from agents that were new or new-ish, and they were so relieved. They're like, oh my God, thank God somebody actually explained that this was brutal for them, because they too are going through that experience that I so intimately knew that was just hideous. And so I get why people think that it's fun. And, people are always like, you're so lucky you work in real estate. You're so lucky. And I'm thinking, God, it's so hard though. Like, you have no idea. And I think it's a really hard thing to explain why it's hard. And I don't think, unless you're in it, like, I don't think people understand that, we go to bed at night worrying about our clients or worrying about a transaction or a clause that was in an agreement, or if somebody's parking spot is legal, or like who's going to pick up the keys for this and how's this all going to happen, what's happening with the weather. Like, there's just so many things that we can't control.
Or I've been working for a buyer for 3 years.
Yeah, exactly.
Is
Like,
this ever gonna
Just because
happen?
you have a client and just because you're advocating for the client's best behalf, that does not mean that you are going to transact.
Yeah, exactly. So I think it's a hard business to explain what's actually happening behind the scenes. So I totally can understand why people are drawn into getting into it, but I can also see why people quickly leave it as well, because it doesn't take long to actually get the feeling of what it actually really is. Maybe 6 months in, you're going to be like, oh, shit.
Yep. Yeah, I gave myself basically, I think, 3 to 6 months. And luckily, within 3 months, I was like, okay, I'm starting to get this figured out, starting to generate a little bit of income.
Yep.
But yeah, there was like always the fallback option, because I didn't know what I didn't know.
Yeah.
Right. And I was going to make sure to mention, that it's one of the iceberg careers where people see the 10% that's beautiful and above the water and sexy, and you're going to lunch and you're making a lot of money. And, it looks fun, easy, lucrative, very social. And what they don't see is you scrubbing somebody's shower basin, right, to get the stains out of there before, and the photographer's at the door saying, I'm going to charge you extra because you're taking too long. And laying in bed at night worrying about getting sued by somebody because something got missed, something got overlooked, something wasn't disclosed, all of those things. That's what you don't see on any of those TV programs. And that's what you don't see when you meet with us and we look nice and we're, smiling and being friendly, all that stuff that's running on a reel in the background.
Yeah, because our job's to protect our clients from that experience. So we carry that for them on both the selling side, the buying side, and the rental side. We're carrying that for you so that you need to worry about this. Let me worry about this for you. And so that's a very difficult thing for people to relate to what that actually means. And I think I used to be very nervous about sharing that stuff with the client. Like, I never wanted them to know the shitty things that were happening or the problems you were solving, because I always wanted them to feel like everything was smooth all the time. And now I'm much more transparent about it. Like, this is the feedback we got. This is an issue. This is a roadblock. How are we going to solve this? How can we figure this out together? I want you to know what's going on behind the scenes. And I want to show my value to you, that I'm helping you get through this. And that is something I feel has made the business for me a lot easier, is like to not carry that and feel like they can't know anything and I have to solve everything behind the closed doors. And it just makes it so much more fluid. And it can actually be a little bit more fun that way. You're like, oh shit, this just happened. You'll never guess what happened right now. And then being able to work through that with your people. And I think it establishes much more trust and a way longer term relationship with that client too, if you can approach the business with that transparency.
Sure, you don't need to hide it all from them, right? Give them a little glimpse on the man behind the curtain, the woman behind the curtain, what's going on, who's working all the levers, and what are those levers, and what are they
Yes.
doing?
Yeah.
People are curious too. There's a lot of people out there, smart individuals that are our clients, that kind of want to know that stuff
Oh, they
a little
love
bit
it.
more, right?
Yeah.
They don't need the smoke and mirrors, like don't look over here. They enjoy kind of knowing what you're going through and what you're working on for them.
It's such an interesting dichotomy, because when we go for dinner or when we're around people, all they want to hear are these crazy stories, are the insider stories. And yet what you see in social media or on television, it's the exact opposite. And there's a big misnomer, and I think that's part of why we're doing this podcast, is to be able to tell a lot of these stories and anecdotes, because they're so rich and they deal with all of the emotions that one could ever experience in working with people and transacting with people and communicating with people. And so it's so great to be able to talk about that. And I think people do want to know about what happens behind the scenes. And I think being able to let your clients in on that it makes the whole experience more fun.
Totally does.
Yeah, absolutely. And you said people a lot in that last sentence. And it basically, you have to be a people person to make this work, right?
You have to be relatable, and you have to be able to empathize, and you have to be able to communicate, because really fundamentally it is a people business. And I don't want to digress, but I had a really good friend, or have a really good friend and client, and he's very high up at Google. And he was saying how an algorithm one day is going to make real estate agents obsolete. And 8 months later, after a huge emotional roller coaster, when he finally scored this incredible deal on a property which he was going to move his family into and set himself up, he said to me, he's like, "Ralph, you know what? No algorithm could ever do this." And if you look at all of the different type of technology plays and discount brokerages and all the things that have tried to come into the market here, and every single time they've had their hat handed to them, because at the end of the day, this is a personal experience. And that's really what we're here to help guide people through.
I'm glad you used that word. That's what I was going to say, is we are guides, right?
Yeah.
And there is not an algorithm that can kind of help you with the education, the experience, the emotion, all of the things that you're going to go through trying to figure this out and be successful.
Yeah.
And we're kind of touching on this already, but Corey, I was going to ask you, do you have a list of character traits, characteristics of a good agent? What do you think of when I say that? What would you put top of the list for that?
It's a great question. I think my number one would be trustworthy.
Yep.
And it's so overused. So when I say that, I mean, I know for me, this is what makes me a good agent. I know that people trust me. I know they can tell me stuff. I feel like they feel really comfortable if they want to complain or cry or stress or worry or message or communicate. I feel like that's probably for me my best qualification. And I mean that because this is a business where we have a preview into people's personal lives. And a lot of shit goes on behind the scenes in terms of what's happening with real estate. So you're in people's physical space. You see their stuff. You see their clutter. You see the relationship they have with their partner, their kids.
You clean their shower basin.
Exactly.
Sorry.
You see the relationship they might have with their parents. Parents are involved oftentimes if they're going to be moving into the house, like into an in-law suite as an example, or perhaps they're backing it with the down payment and they're heavily involved. You might see people getting divorced. You might see somebody lose their job halfway through their acquisition process. And so you're very exposed, and it's not just seeing it from a physical sense, you can feel it too. And so I think people need to feel that they can move through this experience with somebody who's okay with that and can roll with the punches, and they're not embarrassed by all of these different components of the transaction, which is all of that in between stuff that you would never be able to define. So I think trustworthy communication, obviously, and circling back to what we were just saying, like sharing everything. Like, what are we doing behind the scenes? Like, let's talk about this. This just happened. So I think communication, over communicating, and I love, and we really work on this as a team, and I think this is a big reason why we're successful, is I always want to be thinking 2 or 3 steps ahead of the client. So
Yes.
like, what are they worrying about right now? And like, how can I solve this for them before they even have this question in their mind? And so we work together as a team that way, and all of our support staff works that way as well. And I think when we just continually do that every single day, I feel like we're always winning or earning the relationship with the client, whether they're sellers or buyers.
Anything
Awesome.
to add to that?
Yeah,
list? I think we're gonna have some overlap, right, between
Yeah.
us. There's
100%, 100%. And I'm going to just build on what Corey said when it comes to trustworthiness. I think the subcategory which Corey sort of relayed with that is communication. And I think communication is so important. And one of the things I see newer agents in the business that really struggle with is having tough conversations. Having tough conversations with your client about offering on a property and having to come up in order to acquire a property that's the right property for them. Having a tough conversation when a spouse calls you on the side to coach you to deal with the other individual in the couple because they're not all aligned, and then having to speak to them as a marriage counselor. Tough conversation when an agent calls and you're a buying agent or you're a listing agent, and an agent tries to intimidate or bully you. There's all kinds of tough conversations that need to happen in this business, and you need to be able to have those conversations. And in some instances, you need to be a therapist. In another instance, you need to be a negotiator. So there's many hats, communication hats to wear, but you really have to be comfortable with being able to walk into any of these situations and set it up so that you've created a win-win for all parties involved. And you have to go into that with that mindset, and then you have to have the skill set and the ability to execute on that. So I think that's really, really important. I also think there's a mantra in our business: time kills deals. And you have to be really quick off the draw. You have to be quick to respond to your clients when they have a question or they need something, or a property comes on the market day 0 and it's the right one, and you've got to be in touch with the agent. An agent is inquiring something from you. You have to respond in real time. Things move fast, and they're only moving faster. And when you're in a city like Toronto, you have to be able to communicate very quickly and efficiently. So I think those are things that really are really important. And I think the other thing that is a value, it's one of the values on our website, is being relentless. And you really cannot take no for an answer when you're advocating on behalf of your clients. If your clients are interested in a property and the listing agent isn't getting back to you, then you make sure you find a way for you to get the information you need for your clients. Relentless in terms of there can be some pretty harrowing days where things don't turn out the way they should have turned out or the way you want them on behalf of your clients. And you got to wake up the next morning and start all over again and be relentless in the pursuit of excellence. And I think,
absolutely,
day in, day out, year in, year out, I think that's really, really important. And you look at the top agents in this city, and they are excellent communicators, and they are relentless. And so I think those are some characteristics that are really, really important to have, or to be able to build up within yourself in order to be successful in this business. And those are traits I know you have in spades, Ian. Is there anything else you would like to add to it?
You need to have an entrepreneurial spirit. You've got to have drive. You've actually got to be organized. I think that's a big part of being a good agent, as well as being on top of everything from paperwork to everything that's going on with a listing, everything that's going on with your buyers. You've got to be outgoing. That's part of that communication too. You can't be afraid to pick up the phone and call a total stranger that maybe English is their second language, and you've got to break that barrier down and figure out, how to get the information you need. People skills, a good strategizer. I think you kind of need to be a bit of a psychoanalyst as well. That's part of if this was, if we were building a chart for this, the negotiation, like what am I hearing and what am I really feeling that, what kind of message am I getting from this agent or from this buyer? Just be a self-starter. And I think that also ties into, Rob, what you were saying about, like, you got to get back up in the morning. You might have lost the 6th bidding war with these particular buyers, and the next morning you can't be like, I'm taking the day off because, right? You just got to get back on that horse, put your hat back on, get back on that horse, and get back in the race, and try again. You have to be able to take those lumps and keep going.
Yeah, there's one other thing I want to add, and this is something, Ian, that you
and me too after
that you exemplify is being calm. And I think in an emotional business,
what do you mean by that? Sorry.
I think being really calm and being the voice of reason at 11 o'clock at night when people are screaming is really important. And I think you exemplify calm, cool, and collected. And I think that's why people feel that they can really, really lean on you in those moments. And it's one of the things I think that is a trait that makes for an excellent agent is the ability to be the calmest person in the room.
I totally agree with that.
Yeah, don't escalate.
No.
Right? Analyze and don't escalate if it's not necessary. Corey, did you say there was one more thing you wanted to add?
I wanted to add too, and it's going to sound so trite, but you have to be a hard worker and do things that are underneath your pay grade.
Yes.
And people are always like, oh my God, you're so lucky. You have blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, oh my God, lady, if you only knew the shit that I have done. And I have set my alarm at 4 o'clock in the morning for years when I was in this business, getting up, writing newsletters, doing a pricing analysis, writing a presentation deck from scratch, creating a website from scratch twice. Brutal. Just putting together social media posts and all of this stuff has nothing to even to do with
Corey,
the actual. Yeah.
You forgot about getting up at 4 o'clock in the morning to go to a warehouse and rent a van.
Oh, yes.
Pick up the van that we rented from the night before to pick up our staging couches.
So I think
and
that's
put them in the van and deliver them ourselves.
And then carry it ourselves in a snowstorm.
Yeah. I think you're trying to repress some of those memories.
I have repressed it.
I think so.
But I think that's when people are like, it's not fair that you've done so well or we've done well or whatever. I'm like, I don't think you understand what we have done.
They're not seeing what goes on behind the scenes.
And it's been
the hard work.
Brutal. I am totally being honest for our listeners here. There's a lot of years this is really not fun for me, I found. I'm stressed, maxed, burnt out, crying, raging, losing it. I just was like, this is, I found it to be just to get to a place where we could breathe a little bit. I felt like that just took tenacity and discipline and a work ethic that was I refused to be outworked. I just refused. I'm like, if no one else is going to do it, I'll just do it. So I think, and we all have that attitude. So that's nothing but below the pay grade. And I think that is a massive way, especially when you're not born into a high net worth family or a high net worth network. And you are doing this your mom and dad aren't dishing out leads to you for, their neighbor in Rosedale. This is, all of us have come from the bottom, literally. And so I think hard work is so not even something that people are willing to do anymore. It's people are like, what? I have to work? I'm like, yeah, you do.
Pay my dues? What does that mean?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And for
Let
years.
my dad get it for me?
Yeah. Years of
No,
it.
I think you're right. I think there's a selflessness too, that you're not saying what's best for me. You're saying, what is the best thing I can do for the client or the situation?
Yes.
Right? So it's you're going to do some things that are not in a job description, if you can even come up with a full job description for an agent.
Yeah.
But you have to put yourself out there and sometimes do some shitty things.
And for a long period of time, not a year.
Yeah.
For
grind
a
it out.
long haul.
Grind it out.
Yep.
Yeah. Is there an advantage, guys, to working with a real estate team instead of an individual agent? How do you feel about that, Corey?
Good question again. I think there's a lot of advantages. So for the consumer, I think there's a huge advantage, actually. I think this gives the opportunity for the consumer to have an exceptional client experience. And I think this is the way that we earn our commissions and show and add value, with having a team to support the client experience from both the buyer side and the selling side. And the reason being is that not one person can do it all anymore, with the expectations around this role and how much the business has evolved over the last decade. So one person is not able to service the client at the speed in which they need to for that client to be able to transact in a market that moves with the velocity that it does here. And so I love the fact that we can lean into everyone's expertise, personalities, location, price point, energy, all of these things. And we can make sure that our client is like matched with the right person. I think that's a huge part of it too. So, and that everyone's sort of specializing in a different vertical of the business. And we're not doing 40 things like we were in the day where we were staging a property, trying to sell a property, buy a place in Leslieville for another client while working with 3 rental leads at the same time. Now I feel like there's like a nice diversity of like talent and skill and a dedicated person for each different area of the business, so that the client gets the most exceptional experience possible, which they deserve to have. And so I think it would be impossible to be a one-man show anymore. And then on the side, be managing all of the other requirements that are part of this business as well, like marketing and analysis and data sets and social media and everything else that's required of a person in this business as expectations have increased so much. So yes, I definitely think there is. Ralph, do you feel any different?
Yeah, no, I'm going to one-up you on that, and I'm just going to say the era of the lone agent is over. Like, it's just over. Things move way too quickly, and the business is way too multifaceted that one agent cannot do it alone, and one agent cannot serve all of the needs of their clients to the highest and best level and have the experience required in order for them to do so. It's just impossible. And so if you go into any market in a major city in North America, and you'll see the top 90% of the top 1% are all teams. And so that's happening for a reason, and it's just because there's just too much to do, and there's too many facets, and there's too many moving parts, and things are moving way, way, way too quickly for any one person to be able to do it all. And so if you're looking to buy and sell or invest or develop or buy pre-construction or rent, it's really important that you work with a team, and not a collective of agents, but a true team in the truest sense of the word, where they are experts in a specific geographic area, and that they can give you, no matter what you're looking for, the best collective service that you could possibly get. And so that's why the top teams are dominating. And that is not going away. That is only going to continue to expedite. And so I think it's really important, if you're an agent, to be on a team or part of a team. And I really think it's important, if you're a consumer, to make sure that you're getting the best possible service. And that's going to come from a great team.
Yeah, the stakes are so high. Why would you work with anyone but a team? It makes no sense.
It's like the 2 heads is better than 1.
Yes.
In this case, you've got, multiple opinions, multiple heads, right?
Yes.
Multiple opinions. You've got, yeah, I completely agree. And I think there's a good segue in there, Ralph, you talking about the single agent being over. Is that, I was going to ask about old school agents versus kind of the new school, and, things that we've seen over the course of the last decade that have been brought major changes to this industry and business. And so I think that, of course, that single agent who farms one little block and basically wants to become the master of that particular corner or that particular little grid on the map. That's one thing. But what else are you guys seeing? Do you want to continue down that road of like, so the single agent is dead? What else in the last decade has changed dramatically? The question basically is, what changes have you seen in the last decade or since you started that have really revolutionized this or changed this dramatically?
Oh yeah. So the first is definitely technology. You have electronic signature.
1,000%.
You have electronic offers. There's no more face-to-face presentations.
You've got digital signatures. Yeah.
You've got
electronic signature.
Yeah, which is huge. You've got an opening of data. You've got all these apps now where a listing comes up, people see them in real time, consumers see past sales. So there's so much data out there that it's interesting. You have to be more of an expert than ever because your clients are going to be more and more confused because there's so many data inputs coming to them. So you've got to move day zero when a property comes on the market. You've got to be able to respond to your clients in real time. You've got to be a complete knowledge broker because all the different levels of confusions that are out there. You've got to be able to understand technology and how technology is moving so you can always stay ahead and give the best possible service to your clients. You have to really understand how many moving parts there are, and teams, like I were saying before, are really going to be the central epoch for being able to give your clients the highest level of service. Marketing and clients' expectations of what marketing you're able to provide are super important. Being able to have a presence on Instagram and on Facebook and on YouTube and be able to stage a property. I mean, that's just almost a given at this point in time. But can you do it at a high level? And can you relentlessly market a property if the market goes in a different direction? Can you negotiate in the right way for your clients? Can you guide? So there's just, it just goes on and on. But I think the idea of a new school agent is somebody who could literally run a business in any type of industry and move really quickly because really we're business hives that are there to satisfy our clients who have very high expectations.
Corey, what do you think? Anything to add?
Amazing answer, Ralph.
Was it?
Yeah.
I didn't even know what you said.
It was so good. I was like,
wow.
Yes. I don't think I have anything else to add to that. Like, that was awesome.
Thank you.
And Corey, I'm going to throw this next question at you, but I feel like, again, I think we've kind of already touched on it enough that maybe we don't need to touch it, but real estate has a really glamorous reputation, but what is it really like? And I think we kind of already talked about that, didn't we? So I think with your permission, guys, we're just going to skip this one and go ahead on to the next question.
I would like to add one thing to that, too.
Okay.
Is that you're never off. And like, you're just never off. Like, I can't think of the last vacation that we've gone on that we've actually like not been working the majority of the time. And so this whole making your own hours thing is actually hilarious. Yeah. And I actually feel really guilty taking time off because we could always be doing something for our client or improving the business or improving the client experience or our back end or our social media presence or our video presence or something. We could always be working. And so I think that that's one misconception, is this idea that you can make your own hours. And you're also at the beck and call of your client's time. Like, a lot of our clients,
make your hours.
They make your hours. Like, I have shown properties, no joke, at 5 a.m, which was actually really awesome for me because I'm a morning person. I liked it. 5 a.m, I showed a vacant condo one time in City Place. I have shown properties at 9 o'clock at night. I've also done 40 showings in one day in like minus 30 degrees. And you see a lot of agents, I don't know why they do this, post pictures of themselves on vacation and doing, I don't know, whatever they're doing. I feel like that is not us at all. And
I think a more realistic picture would be us hunkered down in a hotel lobby or sitting by a pool and just stuck on our computers because everything is blown up the second we stepped on a plane. Like, we have lost so many vacation hours and vacations, period, because this work is it is a 24-hour a day, 7-day a week job. And even if you have a team and even if you have resources, it's very hard if you're doing this at a high level to be able to completely 100% turn that off. And so, yes, you can make good money in this business, but are you willing to make that pact almost with the devil, meaning that I'm willing to sacrifice? Like, Ian, I've heard you refer in relation to with your wife, Corey, like you've called her a real estate widow before, because, you know, there's a lot of dinners where, you know, you've sat down and you've left her just sitting in front of an empty plate.
Yeah. Yeah. She is a trooper about it. She completely understands. So yeah, if you want to get into this field and your partner is not in this field, they will very quickly learn, you know, just how much time their partner, if they want to be successful, is going to have to dedicate to this 100%. What is, and I wanted to sort of add for those people who don't know the expression, who aren't in real estate, what is that thing that everyone says? If you're a real estate agent and you want to be busy, what should you do?
Go on vacation.
Book a vacation. Book a vacation.
Every time.
As soon as you think, oh, it's a little quiet, maybe I'll take a week. As soon as you book that week for however many thousands of dollars you just spent, you will suddenly get incredibly busy.
Yeah, every time.
Yeah, it's bonkers. There's a Douglas Copeland, I hope I'm crediting him correctly, quote that says, "I miss my pre-internet brain," which is going to mean something different to everybody, but I think it's really crazy. It's true, because I can't remember how my mind worked before we had the internet. But I like to apply it to this, where I miss my pre-real estate brain, because 24/7 it's on and it's thinking about that, and it's even on vacation, and it's even at a dinner.
Yes.
Yeah.
You can't turn it off.
And even when you're not actively working, you're still problem solving. You're like, okay, well, maybe we can get my client in to see this at this time, or maybe I can speak to the agent and we could bump up a closing date, or, you know, like there's just so many moving parts that your mind is always working, even when you're not.
Yeah. Yeah, I think even, you know, if we're all so lucky as to retire and enjoy some downtime, you're still not going to be able to turn that off. I feel like there's no sudden, like, okay, I'm just going to turn the lights out here. I'm going to click this switch and stop thinking about real estate. It's, you know, if it slows down at all, it's going to be a long, slow turning off of that switch.
Yes.
What do you love about being a real estate broker, Corey?
I've been asked this a lot, and I've thought about it a lot, actually. I think for me, somebody who loves a challenge and gets bored really easily, and have been in the past with many different hats I've worn, I love that this really pushes me to always be reinventing myself. I don't think I have said once in the last decade plus that I've been bored. And I love that we have, as a team and as individuals, really stretched ourselves creatively, analytically, intellectually, philosophically, emotionally. And so I think my favorite part is being that kind of chameleon that has the opportunity to be like always waking up and not really knowing what's going to happen in the day. And this is not a routine. And I think that's really healthy for me. And I like the fact that I have overcome so much with this work. And as I was describing my first couple years, I mean, it was brutal, but now there's like parts of it, like I love coming up with solutions and thinking ahead and getting really creative with our marketing and our copywriting and working with our sellers. Like we're just so much more sophisticated in how we approach the business. And now, and I'm so proud of that. I really am so proud of us and what we've built. So I think these are all the components about it. So I think a short answer is like I love the business aspect of it and the fact that we've always been able to evolve. And I look forward to seeing how things will continue to evolve in the next 5 to 10 years as well. Because I think it's going to be fast and furious as we see this introduction of so many new technological advances like, you know, ChatGPT and AI and all of this stuff is going to come in, and it's going to be a really fascinating time. So I'm very open to all of that.
Yeah, it's always challenging, and you're always having to adapt and pivot 100%.
Yes. Yeah.
Ralph, what are your favorite aspects of this career?
Well, again, Corey went first, so I will mirror her a little bit in that I do love the business of real estate, and I love the opportunities that the business avails to thinking about things from a marketing standpoint, to thinking about things from a sales standpoint, to thinking about how to grow a business, a brokerage, and how to grow a team. And I love that aspect of the business. I have always been, since day one, incredibly passionately bullish on Toronto real estate. And I've always seen the opportunity in this market from an investment standpoint and from a career standpoint, literally since day one. And so being able to mirror or tie in my love of the real estate business with my love of Toronto and Toronto real estate is a pretty awesome thing to be able to connect. So those are two aspects. And then I'd say the third is I do love mentoring, and I do love being there for all the people on our team and being able to share all of the mistakes, all of the heartaches, and help them avoid a lot of those pitfalls. And really being able to see people grow is an amazing thing. And building a business where our chief fundamental goal with regards to our team is just to see everybody grow. And if everybody is growing and if everybody is winning, then the team just will win and the business will win. And by extension, if our clients are winning and our clients are happy, then we never have to worry about finding business. And so tying all three of those in together truly is what I love about the business. And it's what, gets me off and excites me and lets me know that, every day is going to be different from the next, so that I'm inspired. And so I think that's awesome. And just being surrounded by great people, and we've meticulously put together a team and environment where we can do that. And I think it's incredibly, unbelievably unique. So I think that's really how I would sum up what do I love in the business. And I think this is a great place maybe for us to end off here. But I'll pass that over to you, Ian, because you've been with us for a long time, and I'd really be interested to hear your answer to that question before we end off.
I think it's spinning off of what you just said, Ralph. You mentioned mentoring the members of the team and helping, educating, kind of sharing experiences. And for me, that's passing that down to the client. So, I mean, for me, the gratitude from clients who really, really appreciate you taking the time to explain things. So being, we used this term earlier in this episode, a knowledge broker, right? So having somebody come to you with a problem and saying, this is what we need to do. We need to buy, we need to sell, for whatever reason. And you having sort of all of the answers, and any answers you don't have, you will get. And so really educating, helping people understand, and then helping people to solve whatever their problem happens to be. That for me, I mean, on top of the fact that there's some great people in this business and our clients are lovely people, it's that to me that's, I feel like I'm helping people, and that to me is hugely rewarding.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Did you just say hugely?
I did say hugely. Yeah.
And bigly? Bigly, hugely?
It's yeah, big time rewarding for sure. Corey, just before we go, let me ask you one question. If you could go back in time and give yourself one piece of advice about being a broker, what would it be? What would it be?
One piece?
Just
one
one
piece of advice.
Yeah.
Actually, so on my first year, I was sitting in this like old school, I think it was at the Granite Club, like a banquet luncheon or something when I was at my old brokerage. And I was sitting there, I think it was like my second week, and it was like some sort of, I don't know what it was, like an award ceremony or something. And this agent knew I was new, and he was sitting beside me. I think he's at Sotheby's now. And he's like, if I could just give you one piece of advice. And I was like, I don't need advice. I know what I'm doing, but
I know that attitude.
yeah, I was like, he said,
the cocky new agent.
yeah. And he said to me, just be yourself. And I think Ralph talked about this earlier as well.
Be
and I was
real.
like, be
Yeah.
myself. Like,
Be
obviously,
genuine.
I'm going to be myself. And then I found myself being anything but myself in the first little while. And I knew Ralph at the time. Like, we didn't work together at this time. And like, our relationship was pretty new when I became a new agent. And I remember thinking that I had to be like Ralph. Talk like Ralph, network like Ralph, present like Ralph, speak to the market like Ralph. And I was like, kind of started feeling, because he was much more tenured than me, and I started feeling like I was starting to try to emulate the way he did things. And like, obviously we have very different personalities. You can just tell by the way we even look on the screen. And it was like not who I am. Like, it's just like not.
I don't know what that means exactly.
No, but you can just
Yeah,
feel the
I feel
difference.
like you guys will be having a conversation about that
Yeah.
off camera later on.
Yeah.
I think
yeah,
anyone
yeah.
who knows us knows that we're like very similar, but we're very opposite ends of the spectrum in terms of our energy and the way we like present ourselves, which I think makes it awesome working together for that reason. However, once I like dropped the idea, I don't even know what happened. One day I was like, I am not going to do anything but act like myself and speak like how I would present and talk to an agent how I would talk. It was like game changing, so much better. Everything just felt like it was much more fluid and much easier. So when I circle back to that initial feedback from that agent at that banquet at the Granite Club, it says just be yourself. Like, he was actually bang on with that advice. And so to any agent out there, like, if you are who you are and you speak in your voice and you are genuine and bring your own vibe and dress the way you dress, and like, people are going to be drawn to that. They're going to be drawn to that authenticity. And I know that word's so overused right now, but I think it's huge and big time. Again, big time when it comes to this business. So that is my one piece of advice, though I could go on and on about that. That would be my giveaway to you today.
Ralph, one piece of advice for yourself starting out, what would you say?
Get over yourself.
Yes.
That's what
a
I
good
would
one.
say.
It's a
I
good
love
one.
that for you.
I'm still working on that. A lot of self-improvement therapy went into that answer. Probably tell with the passion that I said that. But I think it's really important when you get in this business to not get in your own way and to be okay with being yourself in this business and being okay with putting yourself out there and not being worried about what anyone else will think or say. And there's a certain fearlessness that needs to go along with relentlessness in knowing that everything is never going to be perfect and you are never going to be perfect. And if you let fear hold you back or you let yourself hold you back, you'll never reach your full potential. And so I think it's really, really important for people just to get out of their own way. And we see this a lot with our clients as well, that just their mental constructs continually put up walls for themselves that just don't need to be there. And I think it's the same with agents as well. And I think what makes a good agent is somebody who's gotten through those walls so that they in turn can help their clients get through those walls. So I think that would be my first piece of advice. And then the second piece, which talks a little bit more about real estate than being an agent, but they are connected. Don't sell anything. There's probably a handful of properties that I wish we hadn't have sold. Now, those properties got us to owning other properties and other opportunities, but just don't sell anything, ever. That would be the other piece of advice.
I hate to be the heavy, Ralph, but there's a $2,500 fine because the question was specifically just one piece of advice.
Yes.
So by the video podcast rules,
Yep.
there's an infraction here, the $2,500 for adding that extra point.
Money's being sent. Money's being sent as we speak.
I'm texting you my
Transferred
bank information.
Money's
right now.
been transferred.
Yeah. What would
Mine is a simple one. I'm glad that none of us overlapped on this because I think they're all important. But expect zero predictability and consistency. It is just going to be a roller
That's
coaster.
so true.
Just when you think you've got something figured out. I remember my first broker of record said, "Never say never and never say always." Those things are never ever true. in real estate. Something that you tell people never happens will then proceed to happen the following week. Something you tell people will always happen suddenly won't happen the following week. So be careful in your language. And my advice to myself is expect, and it's still true today, that you think you know where something's going and you don't.
Don't tell your buyer client that the offer's been accepted by the listing agent until you have the signed paperwork back.
Great example.
Yep. I think everybody has that experience at least once.
Yeah. Yeah. Don't say a thing until you are confident the thing has actually happened.
It's a fact.
Yeah. Yes,
it's a fact.
Exactly.
Not an opinion.
That's why we use the expression "we'll see" at Fox Marin a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We'll see.
Hashtag we'll see.
Yeah,
Hashtag we'll see.
Yeah. Gonna get that tattooed right here over my heart. We'll see. We'll see. Well, we'll just see how this goes.
Yeah, exactly.
Guys, any closing remarks for us on this one?
I just want to say it's great chatting with you guys about this, and I hope that
it's been a lot of fun.
Got a lot out of it, and I want people to feel like they can, whether you're an agent or a consumer, I want you to feel like you could reach out and ask us questions about this, and it's a really interesting dynamic topic, and I think we could do a part 2 down the road. And maybe bring in some of the agents from our team as well to share some of their personal stories. And I think it's been a great discussion, and I've really enjoyed swapping stories with you both today.
Yeah, likewise.
I'll swap stories with the two of you anytime.
Oh, I just shed a tear.
Thanks, Ralph.
Viewers, leave your comments. Don't forget to subscribe.
Can I say it? Last time you didn't let me
Okay.
say it.
Okay, brace yourself, everybody. Here it comes.
Smash that subscribe button.
Yes! Smash the subscribe button. Leave your comments below. Reach out to us at any time. Contact us. We're nice.
Thanks, everyone. Bye.